The air hung heavy with the scent of coal dust and damp earth, a familiar perfume in the small industrial town of Sevnica, nestled in the heart of Slovenia. The year was 1970, and Yugoslavia, a nation forged in the crucible of revolution, held its breath under the watchful eye of communism. Life was ordered, predictable, and for most, devoid of extravagant dreams. But in a small apartment, tucked away from the gray concrete sprawl, a spark of something different flickered. Melania Knav's. Even her name, with its soft, rolling syllables, seemed out of place amidst the harsh realities of her surroundings. Her father, Victor, a car salesman with a shrewd mind and a quiet intensity, instilled in her a sense of discipline and ambition. Her mother, Amalia, a pattern maker at a children's clothing factory, possessed a creative flair that she poured into her daughter, hand-sewing outfits that whispered of a world beyond the Iron Curtain. It was Amalia who introduced Melania to the forbidden fruit, Western fashion magazines. Smuggled into the country, these glossy pages were portals to another dimension, images of impossibly glamorous women draped in silks and bathed in the golden light of Paris and Milan, ignited a fire in the young girl's heart. She devoured every detail, tracing the lines of the dresses, mimicking the poses of the models, losing herself in a world of beauty and aspiration. School was a blur of mandatory uniforms and socialist rhetoric. Melania was a diligent student, quiet and reserved, but her mind often wandered to the vibrant images she'd sacredly studied the night before. While her classmates dreamed of becoming good comrades, Melania envisioned herself walking the runways, the flashbulbs popping, the world at her feet. This wasn't mere childish fantasy. There was a steely determination in her eyes, a quiet confidence that set her apart. She practiced her walk in the cramped hallway of their apartment, her posture impeccable, her gaze fixed on an imaginary horizon. She learned to speak English, painstakingly memorizing words and phrases, preparing herself for a future she was determined to create. Her first taste of the spotlight came unexpectedly. A local modeling contest, organized by a state-run fashion magazine, offered a glimmer of opportunity. Melania, with her striking features and natural grace, easily outshone the other contestants. The victory was small, a minor blip in the grand scheme of things, but it was a validation of her dreams, a sign that she was on the right path. The black and white photograph from that day captures the moment perfectly. A teenage Melania, her hair pulled back, her eyes wide with a mixture of excitement and apprehension, stands clutching a bouquet of flowers. She's wearing a dress her mother made, a simple but elegant creation that hints at the sophistication to come. It's a picture of youthful innocence, but also of unwavering resolve. But the victory was bittersweet, a single spark in a country on the brink of change. A change that would either crush her dreams or catapult her to unimaginable heights. The runway beckoned, but the path ahead was shrouded in uncertainty, with the rumblings of independence growing louder by the day. Slowly, the doors began to open. She landed small jobs, catalog shoots, and minor runway appearances. She met photographers who saw her potential, designers who appreciated her unique look, and stylists who helped her refine her image. Among them was Alessandro, a seasoned photographer with a keen eye for talent, who became a mentor and friend. He saw beyond the icy exterior, recognizing the vulnerability and ambition that fueled her drive. Alessandro, unlike many others, didn't just see a beautiful face. He saw a story waiting to be told. He'd often share anecdotes of his own struggles early in his career, reminding Melania that perseverance was the key. He taught her not just how to pose, but how to inhabit the clothes, to tell a story with her eyes, to command attention without uttering a word. One particular incident highlighted the precariousness of her early career. Melania was booked for a small show featuring the work of a young, up-and-coming designer. The pay was minimal, but the exposure could be valuable. The day of the show, however, she woke up with a terrible fever. Most models would have called in sick, but Melania, remembering her father's relentless work ethic, refused to let the opportunity slip away. She dragged herself to the venue, her head pounding, her body aching. She forced herself to smile, to walk with confidence, to conceal her illness from everyone around her. The show was a blur, but she got through it. That night, Alessandro found her backstage, pale and shivering. He brought her tea and a blanket, impressed by her grit. "You have the heart of a fighter, Melania," he said. "That's what will make you a star." But would that heart be enough to survive the cutthroat world she'd chosen? The parties were a different kind of challenge. Glamorous, decadent affairs filled with industry power players and fleeting temptations. Melania navigated these waters carefully, aware of the pitfalls and the predatory nature of some of the men she encountered. She learned to deflect unwanted advances with a cool smile and a firm refusal, maintaining her focus on her goals. She'd often observe the interactions around her, noticing the power dynamics, the unspoken rules, the subtle manipulations. She learned to read people quickly, to distinguish between genuine kindness and calculated flattery. Her breakthrough came with a campaign for a rising Italian fashion house, Versace. The images, shot by Alessandro, captured her ethereal beauty and her commanding presence. They were a departure from the prevailing trends, emphasizing a classic elegance that set Melania apart. They appeared in magazines and on billboards across Europe, turning heads and generating buzz. Melania Knaus was finally a name to be reckoned with. The Versace campaign was a turning point, not just professionally, but also personally. It gave Melania a newfound confidence, a sense that she belonged, that she could compete with the best. But success, she quickly learned, bred envy. The flashbulbs popped, capturing Melania's triumph. But in the shadows, a plot was brewing that threatened to unravel everything she'd worked for. Isabella, a rival model, consumed by jealousy, saw Melania as a threat. She was a veteran of the Milan scene, known for her fiery temper and her ruthless ambition. She had been the face of Versace for several seasons, and she resented the attention that Melania was now receiving. She started small, spreading rumors about Melania's background, whispering about her coldness, her lack of personality. Then she escalated. She attempted to sabotage Melania's bookings, calling designers and agencies, spreading lies about her reliability. The culmination of Isabella's campaign came at a prestigious fashion show, where both Melania and Isabella were booked to walk for a major designer. Backstage, before the show, Melania discovered that one of her key outfits, a stunning red gown, had been deliberately damaged. The fabric was torn, the beading was loose, and it was clear that it couldn't be repaired in time. Melania's heart sank. This was a crucial show, a chance to impress some of the most important figures in the industry. She looked at the ruined dress, her dreams seemingly unraveling before her eyes. Was this the end of her Milanese mirage? Or could she find a way to salvage the situation, to turn disaster into triumph? The skyscrapers of Manhattan pierced the sky, a concrete jungle far removed from the romantic canals of Milan. Melania arrived in New York City in 1996, her portfolio filled with European successes, but her name still relatively unknown in the American market. The city was a relentless machine, a constant churn of ambition and opportunity, and she was just another face in the crowd. The sheer scale of the city was daunting. Buildings towered over her, casting long shadows that seemed to swallow her whole. The noise was constant, a cacophony of car horns, sirens, and shouting voices. The cultural shock was significant. The pace was faster, the competition even more intense, and the loneliness at times overwhelming. She missed the familiar comforts of Europe, the close-knit community of models she'd known in Milan. In New York, she was on her own, navigating a new landscape, both literally and figuratively. She missed the cobblestone streets, the leisurely pace of life, the sense of history that permeated every corner of Milan. She found an apartment in a bustling neighborhood, a small space that served as both her sanctuary and her launching pad. The days were filled with go-sees, castings, and test shoots. Each morning, she'd step out of her building and into the swirling chaos of the city, a lone figure amidst a sea of humanity, her dreams clutched tightly in her hand. The nights were often spent alone, studying English, poring over magazines, the city lights a cold, distant comfort. She'd often call her parents in Slovenia, her voice cracking with a mixture of homesickness and determination. They offered words of encouragement, reminding her of the sacrifices they had made, the hopes they had pinned on her. Those calls were her lifeline, a reminder of where she came from and what she was striving to achieve. But would the distance prove too great, the dream too elusive? The modeling scene in 1990s New York was a vibrant mix of grunge and glamour. The supermodel era was in full swing, and the pressure to conform to a certain aesthetic was immense. Melania, with her classic European beauty, sometimes felt out of step with the prevailing trends. But she refused to compromise her style, her elegance, her unique appeal. She understood that blending in was a sure path to obscurity. She had to stand out, to offer something different, to be memorable. She worked tirelessly, building her network, connecting with photographers, designers, and agents. She learned the nuances of the American market, adapting her portfolio, refining her image, and honing her English. She attended industry events, forcing herself to mingle, to make connections, to overcome her natural shyness. She learned to project confidence even when she felt insecure, to smile for the cameras, even when she felt like crying. She walked the runways of New York Fashion Week, showcasing the creations of emerging designers, slowly but surely making her mark. She learned to deal with rejection, to shrug off the dismissive glances, the curt refusals, the unspoken judgments. She knew that every no brought her closer to a yes, that every setback was a lesson learned. She developed a thick skin, a resilience that allowed her to withstand the constant pressure. One particularly grueling day, she went to 5 different castings, crisscrossing the city in the sweltering summer heat. At each one, she was met with the same indifferent stares, the same cursory examinations, the same polite but firm rejections. By the end of the day, she was exhausted, discouraged, and ready to give up. She sat on a bench in Central Park, watching the people go by, wondering if she had made a mistake, if she should just pack her bags and go home. But then she looked up at the towering skyscrapers, at the symbols of ambition and achievement, and she knew that she couldn't quit. She had come too far, sacrificed too much to turn back now. It was at a party during Fashion Week, a lavish affair hosted by a prominent modeling agency, Metropolitan Models, that her life took an unexpected turn. The room was a sea of beautiful people, a blur of champagne flutes and air kisses. The air throbbed with the pulse of music and the murmur of conversations. Melania, standing near the bar, feeling a bit out of place amidst the glittering crowd, felt a presence beside her. She had learned to be wary of unwanted attention, but something about this presence felt different, less predatory, more curious. Across the crowded room, their eyes met. He was older, powerful, and instantly captivated. It was a moment that felt both electric and, in retrospect, perhaps a little fateful. Donald Trump, the real estate mogul, the tabloid fixture, the embodiment of American excess, was drawn to her like a moth to a flame. He approached her with a confidence that bordered on arrogance, but there was also a charm, a charisma, that was undeniable. He introduced himself, his voice booming above the din of the party. Melania, initially hesitant, found herself drawn into a conversation with him. He was surprisingly engaging, asking her about her career, her background, her aspirations. She, in turn, was intrigued by his energy, his ambition, his undeniable presence. The encounter, she knew, could change everything. But was she ready for the whirlwind that was about to engulf her? He asked for her number. She famously gave him all of her numbers, a move that, years later, she would attribute to a desire to control the interaction, to be the one in charge of the next step. The courtship was a whirlwind. Dinners at the most exclusive restaurants, Le Cirque, Rouse, places where reservations were harder to get than a winning lottery ticket. Weekends at Mar-a-Lago, his opulent Palm Beach estate that redefined the word extravagant, private jets, to exotic destinations that most people only dreamed of visiting. Melania was swept into a world of unimaginable luxury, a far cry from her humble beginnings in Slovenia. It was a life of private chefs, personal shoppers, and chauffeured limousines. It was a world where anything she desired was instantly available, where doors opened magically, where the ordinary rules didn't seem to apply. Donald was charming, attentive, and clearly smitten. He showered her with gifts, diamonds that sparkled like captured stars, designer gowns that whispered of Parisian ateliers, and extravagant bouquets of flowers that filled her apartment with their heady scent. He introduced her to his powerful friends, a roster of celebrities, politicians, and business tycoons who moved in circles far beyond her previous experience. He made her the center of his universe, his attention a constant, unwavering force. He'd call her multiple times a day, just to hear her voice, to tell her he was thinking of her. But the relationship also came with a price. The media scrutiny was intense, the paparazzi relentless. Every aspect of Melania's life was dissected, analyzed, and often savagely criticized. She was labeled a gold digger, a trophy girlfriend, a silent accessory to Trump's flamboyant persona. The transition from a relatively anonymous model to the girlfriend of one of the most famous men in the world was jarring. She went from being able to walk down the street unnoticed to being hounded by photographers, her every move documented, her every outfit critiqued. She learned to keep her head down, to avoid eye contact, to develop a shield of composure that protected her from the constant glare of the public eye. It was a baptism by fire, a crash course in the harsh realities of fame. Melania learned to navigate the treacherous waters of the New York social scene, to handle the constant attention with grace and composure. She developed a thick skin, ignoring the whispers and the catty remarks, focusing on her relationship with Donald. She found solace in his unwavering support and his genuine affection. He defended her fiercely against the media attacks, reassuring her that she was more than just a beautiful face, that he valued her intelligence, her strength, and her loyalty. She also began to understand the power dynamics of Trump's world, the intricate web of relationships and rivalries that defined his social circle. She observed, she listened, she learned. She quickly grasped who was genuine and who was merely seeking to curry favor with Donald. She developed a keen sense of intuition, the ability to read people and situations that served her well in this new and often overwhelming environment. Their differences were striking. He was a force of nature, a whirlwind of ego and ambition. She was the calm center, the eye of the storm. He craved the spotlight, thrived on attention, and never shied away from controversy. She preferred to stay in the background, to observe rather than participate, to speak only when necessary. But opposites, as they say, attract. They found a balance, a dynamic that worked for them. He admired her beauty, her intelligence, and her quiet strength. She appreciated his ambition, his generosity, and his surprisingly gentle side, a side that he rarely revealed to the public. She saw beyond the bluster and the bravado, recognizing the vulnerability that he kept carefully hidden. The proposal came in 2004, atop the Metropolitan Museum of Art, during the annual Costume Institute Gala, one of the most glamorous and exclusive events in the world. It was a setting worthy of a movie scene, a moment of high drama and undeniable romance. The ring was a dazzling 15-carat diamond, a symbol of Trump's wealth and his commitment. A rock so large it almost seemed to defy gravity. It was a statement, a declaration of his love and his intentions. But Melania hesitated. She loved Donald, but she was also wary of the life that awaited her as Mrs. Trump. The public scrutiny, the constant pressure, the loss of privacy. It was a daunting prospect. The ring was blinding, a symbol of a life beyond her wildest dreams. But a question lingered in her eyes. Was this a fairy tale or a gilded cage? Would she lose herself in his world? Or could she find a way to remain true to the girl who had dreamed of fashion in a small Slovenian town? She thought of her parents, of their simple life, of the values they had instilled in her. She thought of her own ambitions, her own dreams, her own desire for independence. Could she reconcile those dreams with the demands of being Donald Trump's wife? The answer, she knew, would determine the course of her life. It was a moment of profound uncertainty, a crossroads where love and ambition collided. She eventually said yes, a decision made with both excitement and a touch of trepidation. The wedding in 2005 was a spectacle, a lavish affair at Mar-a-Lago, Trump's opulent Palm Beach estate. The guest list was a who's who of celebrities, politicians, and business tycoons. The media coverage was overwhelming, with helicopters circling overhead, capturing every detail of the extravagant celebration. Melania, radiant in a custom-made Dior gown that cost more than most people's homes, was the picture of bridal perfection. The dress, with its intricate beading and seemingly endless train, was a masterpiece of couture, a symbol of the fairy tale life she was stepping into. The event was splashed across newspapers and magazines around the world, cementing her status as a public figure, no longer just a model, but a global icon. But behind the glamorous facade, Melania was determined to create a private life for herself and her family. She embraced her role as a wife, and soon after as a mother to their son, Baron. She focused on creating a stable and nurturing home environment, shielding Baron from the constant media attention that surrounded his father. She understood the importance of normalcy, of creating a sense of security and stability for her child amidst the whirlwind of their public life. Their apartment in Trump Tower became her sanctuary, a refuge from the chaos of the outside world, a place where she could shut out the noise and focus on what truly mattered. She decorated it with a refined elegance, creating a space that reflected her personal style, a blend of European sophistication and American comfort. It was a haven of calm, a place where she could be herself, away from the prying eyes of the world. The apartment was filled with the sounds of Barron's laughter, a stark contrast to the cacophony of the city outside. She was a devoted mother, involved in every aspect of Barron's upbringing, from schoolwork to playtime. She made sure he had a structured routine, that he learned the importance of discipline and respect, that he remained grounded despite his privileged upbringing. She often spoke to him in Slovenian, wanting him to maintain a connection to his heritage, to understand that his world extended beyond the gilded cage of Trump Tower. She also pursued her own interests, launching a jewelry line and a skincare collection. These ventures allowed her to express her creativity and maintain a sense of independence. She was more than just Donald Trump's wife. She was a businesswoman, a designer, and a mother. She poured her energy into these projects, finding satisfaction in creating something of her own, in proving that she had more to offer than just her beauty. These ventures were a way for her to assert her identity, to remind herself and the world that she was not just an appendage to her husband's fame. However, balancing her personal life, her business ventures, and the demands of being Donald Trump's wife was a constant challenge. The social obligations were endless, the expectations were high, and the scrutiny was unrelenting. She learned to compartmentalize, to switch between her different roles with grace and efficiency, to maintain a sense of equilibrium amidst the constant swirl of activity. It was a high-wire act, performed without a safety net, a testament to her resilience and her determination. One evening she found documents of a political nature that made her think, but the shadow of Donald's growing political ambitions loomed large. He had flirted with the idea of running for president for years, and as his rhetoric became more divisive, Melania found herself increasingly drawn into the political arena. She had always avoided the spotlight, preferring to remain in the background, but now she was forced to confront the possibility of a life even more exposed. She knew that his foray into politics would change everything, that it would thrust them both into a world of unprecedented scrutiny and pressure. She had built a sanctuary within the storm of his celebrity, but now a new tempest was brewing, one that threatened to sweep them both into the unforgiving arena of American politics, a world where every move was scrutinized, every word twisted, every intention questioned. The whispers of a presidential run were growing louder, and Melania knew that her life, and the life of her son, was about to change forever. She had private conversations with Donald, expressing her concerns, questioning whether this was the right path for their family. She worried about the impact on Barron, about the potential for increased media attacks, about the loss of privacy that would inevitably follow. She loved her husband, but she also valued her independence, her peace of mind, and the stability of their family life. The decision, she knew, was not just his, but theirs. The weight of the potential future pressed down on her, a heavy burden she carried with her quiet strength. The 2016 election was a seismic event, a political earthquake that shook the world. Donald Trump, the reality TV star, the real estate mogul, the ultimate outsider, defied all expectations and became the 45th president of the United States. Melania, the former model, the immigrant from Slovenia, was now the First Lady. It was a victory that few had predicted, a triumph that stunned the political establishment and sent shockwaves across the globe. The transition was surreal. From the relative privacy of Trump Tower to the fishbowl of the White House, Melania was thrust into a role she had never sought, and for which she was largely unprepared, thrown into the deep end of a political ocean without a life raft. The move itself was a logistical nightmare, a whirlwind of packing, planning, and security protocols. The White House, with its history, its traditions, and its constant stream of visitors, felt both awe-inspiring and overwhelming. The media scrutiny intensified, every outfit, every gesture, every word analyzed and dissected. She was compared to previous first ladies, criticized for her accent, and accused of being aloof and distant. The weight of history, the expectations of the nation, and the constant glare of the public eye pressed down on her. It was a trial by fire, a test of her resilience and her ability to adapt. The early days in the White House were challenging. She was adjusting to a new city, a new role, and a new level of public exposure. She was also dealing with the fallout from her husband's controversial policies and his constant battles with the media. She found herself caught in the crossfire, a target of both criticism and fascination. She had to learn the intricate rules of protocol, the unspoken expectations of her position, the delicate balance between tradition and modernity. She chose to remain largely silent, a strategy that both intrigued and frustrated the public. Her enigmatic smile, her carefully chosen words, and her elegant demeanor became her trademarks. She was a mystery, a blank canvas onto which people projected their own hopes, fears, and prejudices, a strategy of self-preservation in a world that demanded constant exposure. She understood that everything she said and did would be scrutinized, dissected, and potentially weaponized against her husband. Silence, she realized, was a powerful tool, a way to maintain control, to protect herself and her family from the relentless attacks. She also faced criticism from the very start of her role as First Lady. She was accused of not fulfilling the traditional duties. She established her own office in the East Wing, assembling a small but loyal team of advisors and staff. She began to explore the issues that she wanted to focus on, seeking advice from experts, studying previous First Ladies' initiatives, and considering how she could make a meaningful contribution. She was determined to define her role on her own terms, to carve out a space for herself within the confines of the White House, to use her platform to make a difference. But behind the carefully crafted facade, a battle raged, a battle for her family, her reputation, and perhaps even her soul. A major political scandal erupted, involving allegations of Russian interference in the election and accusations of obstruction of justice against her husband. Melania was thrust into the center of the storm, forced to defend her husband, while also protecting her son from the relentless media onslaught. The allegations were explosive, the accusations relentless, and the political climate increasingly toxic. The world watched as she stood by his side, her expression unreadable. But behind the scenes, she was grappling with the weight of the accusations, the pressure of the office, and the chilling possibility that the life she had built could come crashing down around her. She had private conversations with her husband, seeking reassurance, demanding answers, and expressing her concerns. She also relied on her small circle of trusted friends and advisors, seeking their counsel and support. It was a time of intense pressure, a period of sleepless nights and anxious days, a test of her strength and her loyalty. The constant attacks, the endless speculation, the sheer weight of the presidency. It was a burden that few could comprehend, a challenge that would test even the strongest of individuals. The question was not just whether she could survive, but whether she could emerge from the crucible stronger and more resilient than ever before. Melania, despite the controversies and the constant criticism, sought to define her role as First Lady on her own terms. She launched Be Best, an initiative focused on the well-being of children, addressing issues such as online safety, opioid abuse, and emotional health. The program was met with mixed reactions, some praising its goals, others criticizing its lack of specificity and its jarring contrast to her husband's often combative online behavior. She traveled the country, visiting schools, hospitals, and community centers, meeting with children and families affected by these issues. She used her platform to raise awareness, to advocate for change, and to offer a message of hope and resilience. But her efforts were often overshadowed by the political turmoil surrounding her husband's presidency. Her fashion choices became a subject of intense fascination. Every outfit she wore was meticulously analyzed, interpreted as a statement, a symbol, or a hidden message, a language she used when words were either insufficient or too dangerous. She favored elegant, European designers, often choosing bold colors and striking silhouettes. Her style was both praised and criticized, but it was undeniably her own. She also played a role in the diplomatic aspects of the presidency, accompanying her husband on foreign trips, meeting with world leaders, and representing the United States on the global stage. She navigated these complex situations with grace and poise, earning the respect of many of her counterparts. The world watched and tried to understand her. As Donald's presidency neared its end, Melania faced a crucial decision about her future, whether to retreat from public life or embrace a new, independent role. The White House loomed behind her, a symbol of power and a reminder of the sacrifices she had made. But as she looked ahead, a new path beckoned, one that would finally allow her to define herself on her own terms, free from the constraints of the White House and the expectations of a nation. The final months of the presidency were a whirlwind of farewell events, packing and planning for the future. The post-White House years have been for Melania a return to a semblance of privacy. She has largely retreated from the public eye, focusing on her family and her personal life. She divides her time between Mar-a-Lago, Trump Tower, and other properties, maintaining a low profile and rarely giving interviews. But the world remains fascinated by her. She is an enigma, a figure of enduring mystery, a woman who has mastered the art of revealing very little while captivating the world's attention. Her silence has only fueled the speculation, the questions, and the enduring interest in her life and her legacy. What are her plans for the future? Will she remain in the shadow of her husband, or will she forge her own path? Will she write a memoir, revealing the secrets of her years in the White House? Will she continue her philanthropic work, or will she disappear from public view entirely? These questions remain unanswered. Melania has given little indication of her intentions. She has guarded her privacy fiercely, refusing to be drawn into the political fray or to engage with the media's relentless pursuit of her story. But one thing is clear: Melania Trump is a survivor. She has navigated a remarkable journey from a small town in Slovenia to the heights of power and influence. She has endured criticism, scrutiny, and controversy, emerging with her dignity intact and her spirit unbroken. The cameras may have moved on, but the world remains fascinated by the woman who walked from the runway to the White House and into history. Her story, like the woman herself, is far from over. The final chapter is yet to be written, and the ending remains a mystery. as enigmatic and captivating as the woman herself, a story that continues to unfold, one silent step at a time.